I'm Lynn.
I'm Amanda.
And this is the Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast. We're cutting through the fluff and cracking open what it really takes to build a business and life that you actually want.
No gurus, no gatekeeping, just real talk, big action, and the badass energy you need to scale and slay.
Some episodes, it's just us.
And sometimes we bring on powerful guests with stories that'll hit home.
Either way, this is not about playing small.
It's about going all in.
Let's get after it. Hey there, I'm Lynn.
And I'm Amanda. Welcome to the Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast. Today we're talking about a very important cost, the cost of doing nothing.
Yep. You know, this can go a lot of different ways, but when we decided to talk about this, I thought of something that a woman that I just met at Money 2020, actually, she's like, when you stick your head in the sand, your ass becomes a bigger target. I was like, that's brilliant. I'm stealing that. The cost of doing nothing. Like when you are not in your head, when you are kind of being passive, like things can pass you by, you absolutely get smacked upside the head. And listen, I come from a long line of family that loves the ostrich head in the sand type of thing. Like it definitely can be a bad habit of mine, not in all aspects, but in some aspects of things. But the cost of doing nothing can sting in many, many ways.
You know, we've talked about it in a previous podcast about that natural response for fight, flight, and fawn and freeze. It's the same concept here. If you're avoiding everything, what's that going to cost you down the line? Just because you're avoiding, for example, if you're avoiding your power bill, eventually the power is going to go out regardless of how much you avoid it. And it's the same way with your business. If you avoid something long enough, you're technically making a choice to say no to that thing. Like, even if you haven't outwardly said, oh, I'm not going to pay the electric bill, by not paying it, you've already said you're not going to pay it, even if you haven't chosen to not pay it. So those consequences still trickle down in your business. So there's all these things that you are sitting on or waiting on. You're missing these opportunities. You're not jumping on opportunities. And I have been guilty of this. There are plenty of opportunities that I could have taken advantage of, but I waited because I'm like, I don't know. I'm going to see how this goes. I don't feel, you just weren't ready to take the risk. Ultimately, it comes down to betting on yourself, because when you're the business owner, you're betting on your ability to adapt and to come out of it if it goes well or if it doesn't go well. So by not doing anything, you're costing yourself way more money, way more time, way more energy than you even realize or could possibly realize.
Absolutely. And headache. The aspect that you spoke about was more in like action and different things, but like look at even like all of the conversations that you are not having that you need to have, right? That's the cost of doing nothing. What happens? It festers. It becomes bigger than what it should. It compiles and compounds itself. Then there's the blow up. There's the disconnect. There's the wandering eye. There's all of the things that can happen. The cause and effect is real of you doing nothing. It's funny because I think of my kids too, where they're like, because I raised them watching The Secret, like you can manifest the law of abundance. And they're like, I'm just going to manifest this into existence. And believe me, I'm woo-woo. Like I definitely get it, but no, the fuck you can't. You have to put in action. So the cost of doing nothing except for manifesting, yeah, you might attract some things, but you're not actually really living into the full potential of what could be. There might be some happenstance things that happen, but that means just kind of like it just happens to be, for those of you who haven't heard that phrase. But it absolutely is costing you time, it's costing you money, it's costing you resources, it's costing energy, because if you had the momentum or the idea, you'll eventually lose steam and momentum if nothing's going on. You gain frustration. So it is costing you that energy as well from a different standpoint.
And I think about all the business owners and just people in general who complain about things not being the way they want them to be, and then not making any changes. And it's the same thing. You're doing nothing. And the cost of that is continuing that uncomfortable feeling of not getting anywhere further, not change anything. They go together. You can't stay exactly the same, do nothing different. The cost of doing nothing is that you stay the same. And if you're unhappy with any part of staying the same, then you've done that to yourself, because doing nothing means you're accepting and that you're saying yes to what you don't like.
But I would add, it's not even staying the same, not in this market, not in this time and day,
True.
like in the world, because the world is evolving so quickly that actually you are going backwards.
Absolutely.
By staying the same. You're becoming irrelevant you're becoming someone who is not needed in that aspect, or business sense.
Yeah, it's like the people who still don't want to have a website. And you're like, okay, but now it's a thing now. Could have resisted it for a long time. You don't need one, just like social media. Like, you can resist it for a really long time, and that's fine. That's a choice, but don't be mad when it accelerates to the point where you're obsolete, because things are changing. There is a lot of movement. The same way with people who haven't changed their prices in 20 years because they want customer loyalty and they're afraid of raising their prices. There's all these little things, but it's still that cost of doing nothing. Like, yeah, you got that customer loyalty, you did all these things, and you haven't raised your prices in 20 years. And every year you're taking a pay cut because every year inflation goes up. Every year the things cost more. Every year things take more time, or the customers will shift anyway. So there's a lot of things that fall into that cost of doing nothing. And ultimately it's fear. What's the reason to not do something, to try something new? I mean, I'm not saying we need to try
pattern of avoidance.
Everything. Pattern of avoidance, true.
But
what's
it
your
can be
excuse?
fear-based. Yeah, absolutely. And we're not just talking about the costs as in financial costs. Like, it could be in your relationships, it could be in time, it could be in so many different aspects. So cost is not just finances or money. It goes across all different aspects. It really is. Like, people don't think about it. They feel like, oh, if I don't do this, then whatever. And we're not saying that you have to do everything either, and that you have to do it all. Like, it could be your VA or your assistant or your manager is doing it, right? Or not doing it, but having a critical eye on what should be done and what shouldn't be done. And especially the things that are of importance to make your world go around and around, because there is cause and effect. And I think of, like, we released a podcast about Money 2020. So I'll use that as an example. Going to Money 2020, it was over 3 days. I went day 1, you went day 2, and we both went day 3. And we did something, but I also, when people ask me, like, what did you get out of it? I was like, I got out of it what I put into it. So day 2 is a nothing, right? If I would have went to it, even though she went to it, like, just like she met people, I would meet additional people, right? So, but the cost of doing nothing that day because of things I had on my plate, just like her day 1, she had things on her plate, were more of value than going there, like, or more of importance, I would say, depending on it. So you can, like, when you're saying no to one thing, you're saying yes to another, or vice versa, right? So if you're doing nothing, then you're also saying yes to lack of growth, to festering that emotion, or whatever the case is. Like, you're saying yes to something, being lazy. And sometimes that's okay, like checking out. So doing nothing on your business for a week. For example, I've been on a slight social detox for 2 weeks. Even though we have a team of people, I personally like to go offline, minimal, sometimes completely go offline for a couple of weeks, almost like reset analytics. Like, there's some logic behind it, but there's also, like, I understand, like, I'm not being in front of people's faces right now, right? So there's a cost of doing nothing. We can take this kind of term, this wording, and spin it in many different ways. But the simple fact is that you receive what you do or do not put into things.
Absolutely. And I want everybody to go back, if you have not listened to our episode on sacrifice. This plays right into it. And I love that you really brought up the emotional side of things, because there is, I mean, particularly with entrepreneurship, it's not always about money. It's not always about time. It's not always about your family and relationships. There's nuances there. And there are things worth sacrificing in order to make the changes you want to change. And that's a personal choice, and that's situational, depending on what's going on in your life. But all of that comes into play when you think about the cost of doing nothing, because it's not just about how much money you make. It's not just about how much time you spend with your kids. It's not just about how your business grows or your relationships grow. It's all of those things, because we're not all one thing. Period. We're holistically many things over the course of the day. Even the most boring person in the world is more than one thing. You have to consider that. What are you willing to sacrifice? What is the cost of doing nothing? What is that going to look like 6 months from now, a year from now, 10 years from now? What are you willing to give up or not? What is the cost you're willing to give up to see what you want to see at the end of 10 years?
Yeah. There's that quote going around, and I think you just literally posted it, about, like, the sacrifice of today for the result of tomorrow, and the living in tomorrow. A lot of people nowadays have it opposite. No, I'm just gonna go and just, like, have Pauhana with my friends and, like, do all of this, but one turns into many. That means you're doing nothing in your business. You're building relationships in your personal life, but you're doing nothing in your business. And just understanding that nuance, which kind of ties into my last point, is, like, I think that there's also an aspect of, I have this conversation quite often, is sometimes the story that we tell ourselves and tell others is not necessarily the actions that we're doing. And so we might think that we're doing all of the things and we're talking it up to say that we're having those conversations, we're doing this, we're doing that, but really you're not. And so I think that there's like this stripping back and like really being truly honest with yourself, and kind of like, I used this example before, like working with one of my clients way back when, and she was just like, I'm doing all the things and I'm not building my business and all this other stuff. I'm having all these meetings, and she was treating them all the same. So when we peeled back, we realized she was only doing maybe one sales conversation a month, so many relationship building and so much this, and there were other aspects, but really she wasn't doing much. But she gave herself the story that she was doing all the things. And I love my friend group and those, but I have noticed, and this is not just my friends, but other people as well. And I think as I notice it with my friends, it's like, life is so hard now. Like it's become a batch. Like, oh, it's so difficult.
So busy. It's so hard.
This, it's so that. And again, most of my friends don't do it. I definitely see little nuances of it. And it's not for me to judge. It's become like this badge that people put on. But this feeds into the stories. And really, they're not doing much. So that's like the cost of doing nothing. So there is a cause and effect, because they think the story that they're telling themselves, they're doing all of these things, they're actually setting themselves up. And energy goes where energy flows. So they think that they're doing all the things, but really they're doing nothing. But they have this story in their mind. And this is with relationships, this is with business, this is with their kids, just life in general. And one way to kind of give yourself a reality check is, one, do a calendar, kind of like
a little diary, like a little,
or check, like you can even go backwards in your diary and like check yourself and like see where all of your energy is going, like really how much you are like bento boxy efforts, and see, looking at your results and looking at your true efforts, differentiate all the different efforts, especially when it comes to business, like what the results are that you want. Because those two things, audit, calendar audit, and also like your results audit, results and effort audit, will help you.
And how they correlate. So
Correct.
It's not just, if you look at your calendar, like, well, yeah, I did all the things. I spent 47 hours on my social media. But then when you look at what brought in profits, and 0 of those profits came from social media, then all 47 hours of that was waste of time. We get into these feelings, well, I'm doing all the things everybody says I need to be doing. This is what everybody says I need to do to grow. But you're not looking at what's actually growing your business. And you're putting these, like in this case, social media on this high pedestal. This is what's going to get me money. And it's not doing jack squat for your business. You set yourself up for this idea that that's what's doing all the work. And then you think that you're getting so much done, that you have so much on your plate. I have a completely booked schedule. And you're using that again as a badge of honor. Like, I'm so booked out and I'm so dedicated to my job and I'm doing all these things. But then when you actually look at the time spent doing things that move the needle, you realize like, oh yeah, I'm doing nothing that's moving the needle. And all these things that I think are so important are doing nothing for the business. Hopefully you'll see how inefficient you are, because a lot of that stuff that you're wasting time on is inefficiencies that don't even need to happen. We talk a lot about that, the Eisenhower matrix. That is stuff that you can delegate to the trash. If you're auditing your calendar, honestly, truthfully, there are lots of things you can delegate to the trash. Absolutely. 100%. And yes, sometimes you need to have the things like, I could, in theory,
emails.
I could delegate reading to the trash, because I don't need to. I'm just saying, like, I don't need to read in order to make money, but it fills my cup. So as you said, like, not everything has the same value. It needs to be put in the same bucket. Like, yes, it's time spent. So yeah, I spent 3 hours doing that. That's not 3 hours that I was intending to make money. That's 3 hours to fill my cup. Again, you've got to figure out what's the purpose and audit the correlation. Like, what's the point of that? What are you spending that time on, and why?
And respect that that's what it's for.
I mean,
don't beat yourself up.
Read a book, please. Love of all the time.
Listen.
Read a book. Or listen. Eva's still reading. They've done studies on it now.
Yes, finally, assholes. Anyway, listen, we can go on and on and on and on. We are guilty of this as well. We understand, and we audit ourselves. We audit each other. We call each other out on it.
She just did like 2 hours ago.
I did. It's not a one-time fix. Like, the cost of doing nothing, there's lots of nothings that we're all doing, and it's okay. Like, we shouldn't be doing everything. And what's the cost of that? And so it's in different aspects, in different kind of verticals, in different ways, with different people, blah, blah, blah. Right. And so at the end of the day, kind of do yourself a favor, do an audit, because what you gain by actually looking at the cost of doing nothing. What you can gain is clarity. It can give you more direction. It can give you more grounding. It can give you more grace to yourself. It can ease some stuff, stress. It can give you a better direction and outlook. You can gain more time and even resources and finances back because of this. And so just really do yourself a favor, do an analysis, do a quick audit of the cost of doing nothing in your life and in your business and relationships.
Yeah. And sometimes it is going to be less money. I'm going to say that right now, because sometimes you audit something else and it does mean you make less money, but you gain sanity, you gain time, you gain all these things that make it worth it. Or you gain the time that you use to invest in a different money-making venture. There's all sorts, again, it's a give and take, it's a sacrifice, it's figuring out, but it's individual to what your goals are and what you're looking for in life and business.
Absolutely. If you like this podcast, hit the like button and subscribe if you don't already subscribe to our podcast, The Pursuit of Badasserie.
And make sure you're looking at not just Spotify and not just Apple, but also YouTube. You can watch our lovely faces and our ridiculous reactions to things. We want to hear from you. If you have things that are burning questions about your business, please reach out to us, because we want to make a podcast on that.
Absolutely. We love this. And soon you'll be hearing more interviews coming out. We know we've done a big season of us because we've been together. It's been lovely. Yes. And we'll have some people. So if you know of someone who should be on The Pursuit of Badasserie and you want to hear more about them, tag them. Let us know. We'd love to know who you want to hear. Well, until next time,
get after it.
Thanks for tuning in. But remember, listening is not doing.
Take what you heard today and move.
Share the episode, leave us a review, and tag us when you take action.
Head over to thepursuitofbadasserie.com and see how we're helping entrepreneurs get results without the fluff.
Until next time,
let's get after it.